Hope everybody's doing all right today. Had a chance to go back and watch the Navy game as a staff and then as an individual and break it down all three phases. Just really, really pleased with the way our defense played from start to finish. Obviously, they had that one trap play that got us for some long yardage, but just really pleased with their effort, their execution. Special teams, we got to continue to clean up our basic fundamentals to get to where we need to be. As you guys know, we're playing a lot of different people on that unit and all those units there, but we got to continue to improve there. And then, looking ahead, our offense, just consistency, right? Trying to find a way to get into rhythm, running the football. There's certain things where, a guy away on each play that calls some of those things. Obviously, Navy had some well-timed blitzes, but all those things being said, we've got to continue to find ways to get our offense going and head in the right direction. But, congrats to Riley Patterson, Special Teams Player of the Week, and then obviously Quindell Johnson, who had a huge game for us, right? 12 tackles, 9 solo in the INT. We know we got a great Tulane opponent. Had a couple weeks now to prepare for us at their place. Last time we played there, I believe the score was 40-26. They took us behind the woodshed and kicked our tail. Obviously, that was a different year, different time, but I know our guys are excited about the challenges ahead facing a great Tulane team.
Evan, first question for Coach.
Ryan, how are we doing this morning?
Good, Evan. How are you?
Doing well. So just wanted to confirm on your end. I noticed Connor Adair is no longer on the roster. Do you have an update on just his status with the team at this moment?
Yeah, like with a lot of those guys, Evan, right? Someone we do, show on our roster that they're no longer part of our program. For whatever the reason is, right? Whether some guys have entered the transfer portal, some guys have opted out, some guys have taken a leave of absence for personal reasons. I think this year more than any, right, we know we're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds that are dealing with a lot. Many of them are, have COVID concerns and understand the opt-out situation. We have others that want to transfer and go find a better situation for themselves, generally regarding playing time. And then, we have other guys that are dealing with some mental health issues. So, again, with a lot of these things, until a player personally comes out and wants to talk about it themselves, I think it's in the best interest of each individual to keep it that way. We've had various different things. We've had guys that we've removed from the roster ourselves. But look, we're going to keep trudging along. We know our numbers aren't what they were at the beginning of the year, but we're proud of the guys that have stayed and keep fighting and doing things the right way. I think we look throughout college football, Evan, as you well know, everywhere around the country, it's the number of opt-outs, the number of transfers, and it's going to continue to increase. I think within the next 10 days, I think you guys are going to be blown away by the number of people in the transfer portal. I'm talking about all over the country. And I think that's what this year is going to face more than ever. And I know we've kind of talked about, you guys, Brian's asked about it almost every other week. The roster management is going to be something that's going to be quite interesting, especially with signing day coming up in just over 2 weeks. It's all those things that have got to be in play. And now we're still dealing with X's and O's trying to get ready for a great Tulane team. So hands are full, ready to roll.
Sorry. Just to follow up on that, as you mentioned, I think a few weeks ago, you said if someone is no longer on the roster, we can assume they're no longer on the team. Is that fair to say at this point, just for now, at least?
Yeah. So if they're not listed on our roster at this current moment, they're currently not with the team. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be part of our program, right? There are guys that have opted out that discuss coming back with the program. There are guys that we've have thrown off the team that aren't on our roster. We've had guys that have entered the transfer portal. We've had guys that are taking a leave of absence for mental health and other issues, personal reasons that I don't feel like going into with each individual. So all those things, yeah, if they're not currently listed on our roster, again, I haven't looked directly at it. They most likely won't be dressing in the Tulane game.
With that said, now that means that obviously if something were to happen to Brady, you obviously have some depth concerns with QB. I think I asked last week, but just kind of how confident are you with those QBs to say, knock on wood, if something were to happen to Brady now, you're in a situation where you have two guys, I know Peter's not eligible, but two guys who haven't had much haven't had really any game experience this year.
Yeah, that's part of what it does. And that's a great thing is we've got a great quarterback coach and offense coordinator, Kevin Johns. They do a great job preparing everybody, just like all of our coaches, make sure. And we've seen our depth challenge all the time this season, right? Different positions. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw we had guys that had traveled that you probably having to stare at the roster saying, wait, who is that? What's that name? And we're just like with any position, we've got to be prepared and ready. But, I've got great faith in the quarterbacks, the entire room, that they'll be ready if their number's called.
Terry?
Hey, Coach, before the game, you had a few guys who virtually graduated, man. Talk about the academic progress of your team and how many people did graduate on Saturday.
Yeah, Terry, it was awesome. It was the virtual graduation that they weren't able to attend. We did about 10 days ago. I can't remember the exact day. We actually did a drive-by graduation. I'm sure you guys saw some of that on social media. So that was all the football players that had graduated. We were able to be out there. They came through by their car and took a picture with me in their mask, something to send home to mama. But, proud of those guys. I don't want to give you the exact number because I'm not sure. And plus, we're still waiting on final grades. But we honored them. I told our team, I apologize, said I never like to point out in front of our team individual honors, but man, I had them all stand up and give them a round of applause. And that's about as loud of applause as we've had in that team room in quite a while. So I was quite excited for them. And it's an honor, right? Because you guys well know it's hard enough to be a student, a college student, especially this day and age with everything that's occurring, and then be able to play football at a high level at a major university. So to be a student athlete here and accomplish that, and for a lot of them, they're the first ones in their family to get a college degree. So just so proud of them and what it means. As you guys well know, it's not just about what occurs on the field to me. And I know this is a long-winded answer, Terry, but it's about what occurs off and what they do outside those white lines. And for those guys to go and graduate with a wonderful degree from the University of Memphis, it means the world to them, but it also means the world to our staff. And kudos to all those people that helped along the way. And obviously, someone will be back for another year, but we wish them all well in their future endeavors, and they'll always be Memphis Tigers.
Steven?
Ryan, how's it going?
Good, Steven. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. We heard on the broadcast that Drake didn't travel up with you guys. I guess what's just the status of him for this week?
Yeah, so we, yesterday we got out on the field a little bit, and he was out there moving around a little bit. I think he'll be day to day. I know we kind of said that last week. We said the same with Javon. Javon was able to travel and play a little bit. But we do feel like Drake is making the right progress. And I do expect him to be ready this week, but there's no promises, right? You guys see how they move around on a Tuesday full padded practice, especially at that position before I'd feel comfortable putting them in a game.
And just from what you've been watching on film, what just stands out to you about this Tulane team?
Well, first off, we know they scored a lot of points. Will Hall, their offense coordinator, was here with me. He was our tight end coach at one point. Excellent offensive mind, well regarded. They do a good job. They got a freshman quarterback that's playing at a really high level. They got talent. They're able to run the ball as good as anybody in the country, and he sticks with that. Their offensive line's aggressive, tough, tight ends. They got receivers that are fast and big. And then if you look at their D-line, all around, they got some really good players, right? I believe both their defensive ends are Senior Bowl prospects. And so, that's going to be a challenge for our tackles and what they're going to try to do. They've got experienced secondary and then linebackers that can run around. And they're really sound on special teams. So you're looking at a unit, it's 5-5, but if you go back and watch their games, they led in most of their games. So you can tell that they're just as talented as any team in our conference. And they're well coached. Obviously, Coach Fritz is one of the highest regarded coaches in the country, and they're going to give us everything I have. But I don't look at them and say, man, we know what they're capable of. They're going to bring it all, and we have a tough task ahead of us on Saturday morning.
Brian?
Hey, Coach, one of the players I believe that graduated and you recruited him, coming out of high school. Talk about his progression since he's got to Memphis, and have you learned any more of his language?
So the language of Igbo, I have not. It was I don't want to say learning. It was just recruiting ploy. My wife gets on me all the time about not learning other languages, right? Because she speaks like 9 of them, and English being her third. I'm still trying to learn proper English, but no, you guys know my relationship with him has been a unique one, from the recruitment all the way to getting him here to his maturation. He's a mature young man, as you guys know. that gets it, sees the big picture of life outside the football field. And just proud of him, right? You think about this. Here's a young man. When we talk about what these 18 to 22-year-olds go through all the time, he hasn't seen his family, any immediate blood family. I believe it's been 6 years. And I couldn't have fathomed, being a 16-year-old and not seeing my parents for 6 years or a sibling. And, I can barely imagine doing it at my age right now, but a guy of his youth that had to move across the country, across the planet and not know anybody, and just what he's gone through to be able to endure that, his strength. I think that speaks volumes about his character. We all know the type of young man he is. It's proud of him, right? He's got internship opportunities, and now to be able to get the degree, couldn't be happier and more deserving for a young man like himself.
Clayton?
Hey, Coach. Just in terms of this season, I know you talked about how 2020, it's your own, is its own team. It's not the 2019, 2018. But in terms of what you've had to deal with specifically with opt-outs with so many, high-profile players, is it fair to make any type of comparison to teams of 2018, 19,
I wish I could, but you, like I said, you go back and put on the championship game, and I think when one of our athletic directors was in my office, and I was watching the championship game from last year versus Cincinnati, as I was preparing for Cincinnati. And I had to point out to him who everybody was except for number 3 on the field. You go back and watch that game, it's a completely different offense. It really is, right? So I don't think it's fair to be able to compare that. We're a different roster. We really are. Now, a lot of the same defensive players are out there in a new scheme. And like I said, I think you're watching the defense starting to come together and have a better understanding of what we're trying to do under Coach McIntyre and his staff, and I'm really proud of their growth. But you look on special teams. I mean, we even lost core special teams guys, a lot of them that were, 3-phase special teams guys that were starters, even as walk-ons that are no longer part of our roster. So that's part of it. And we are our own deal. 2020 is its own year. And I think that will always, with staying on merits of, hey, this is a new season. And I think we're going to continue to see that, Clayton, this progression, right? I mean, I was talking to somebody, we're talking about just roster management and keeping the core group of players, because, opt-outs are something hopefully that only occurs in 2020. But I think with the way this transfer thing is going to work, it's okay, who are you able to hold on to? Who do you have? I don't know if the NIL, right, when these young men are able to start getting endorsements, if that's going to change the grand scheme of things, and, are we going to lose guys to quote unquote more money or a bigger name brand? I don't know. And these are all things that I've got to continue to explore and push forward through. But again, I keep giving you guys like the long answers. I'm trying to answer as many questions as we can as we go on forward and be pretty forthright with you guys. But I can't compare this team to anyone else.
Evan?
On that note, Ryan, 2018, obviously you mentioned that game. That front line of Tulane, I believe they had 7 sacks in that game. They're among the nation's leaders this year in sacks and tackles for loss. Given how this offensive line has kind of kept Brady clean for the most part, what kind of challenges does this front line present? Because obviously they're just getting out of the Navy game. This is going to be just as physical facing the Tulane front.
Yeah, I mean, look, they gave us all we could handle, 7 sacks. I remember very well. When we got our butts kicked at, we opened the first play of the game. I believe, Evan, was a counter play that we scored a touchdown on, and, probably shame on us as an offense and me, and maybe too much confidence in the offensive line, because we did not hold up well in pass protection, right? They swarmed after Brady, got after our offensive line, and that was 100% on me as the O-line coach. And then you look at them this year, and you're right, what they are able to do. Certainly leading the conference in sacks, and they've got some great guys all around their defensive front. Like I said, I do believe our offensive line is doing well in pass protection, but we're going to be able to get the run game established in order to not just be able to sit there and drop back pass, because if we do that, it's going to be a long, hard day for us. But we got to continue to find ways to be creative, maybe to get the ball out quicker. do different things. I got great faith in our offensive line to continue to improve that way. But I do remember 2018, that game, unfortunately, really well and what they were able to do. And we know that this defensive line is going to try to be as disruptive as possible.
With that, I mean, the O-line, again, we talked about the run game. You mentioned how much you've taken it personally, how much you struggled. How would you assess them, as far as not just, whether it's not creating holes, but just being able to protect Brady as well? Because that's obviously going to be a factor, as well as trying to find holes against this, physical front seven. How would you assess the group at this point?
Yeah, like I said, I think their pass protection's been pretty solid. You go back and watch it, and has it been perfect? No line coach will ever say their pass protection's perfect, but I think they've done a nice job in pass pro. Trying to keep Brady upright, knock on wood. But then you go look in the run game, and there's things that's details here or there, right? If it may be a guy not being able to get off the double team, it may be a tight end on the backside cutoff, it may be a receiver that's supposed to get the safety, and the safety comes down and makes a play for a 1 yard gain. It may be a running back misreading the hole, all those things. But the offensive line, they need to continue to clean up what they're doing in the run game. And so, I'd say I'm not pleased with our run blocking and pleased with the pass protection.
Terry?
Just for the other side of the line, coach, your defensive line, they played a very good game against Navy. It was a very physical game also. What do you do during the middle of the week to make sure they are fresh to go against, this quarterback against Tulane? And do you expect anybody to come off of injury that hadn't played yet other than Drake?
Yeah, Terry, let me answer the injury thing. I think other than Drake, he may be the only one we're monitoring now. I would be remiss if I didn't say that a lot of our D-line did have ice packs on their shins and knees from all those cut blocks that occurred on Saturday. I mean, that Navy offensive line, they come off the ball low and hard, and it's a different type of scheme, right? Then you go play a team that possibly drop back pass. So we've got to be smart. And I mentioned this to you guys 2 weeks ago. This is the longest, shortest season, right? I mean, this feels like we played Arkansas State 3 years ago. And so I got to keep our guys as fresh as I can, with now that most of their schoolwork's done, trying to get them up here for treatment, take care of their bodies, make sure they're living right, hydrated, eating. And then, we'll watch the reps in practice, right? We don't want to be a tired team. Like I said, Tulane's coming off now an extra week or so to prepare for us. And we're coming off a physical game that was at night, that was on the road. Most of our guys probably didn't get to bed till 3 a.m. on Sunday just because of travel. I personally that's about what time I went to bed. Was up 3 hours later, and I'm sure most of those guys were able to sleep in a little bit Sunday, but we were back to work and ready to roll. So we got to continue to make sure that we're taking care of their bodies to make sure they're full go. But pleased with the defensive line. I think it's been a bright spot for us this year for sure.
Cassie, last question.
Hey, Coach, you talked about how when the guys who graduated stood up, the team room was probably the loudest it has been in a while. When it's week after week, you're seeing all these different things happen with this team. What's the key to motivating them? And have you seen anyone step up in particular during these times?
Yeah, Cassie, and I mentioned this, I think, last week post-practice, the motivation has to be a daily deal. And I don't want to sit there and be a rah-rah guy. But we have to find ways to keep these guys chugging along, because they feel the length of the season. They feel all the adversity that's occurred, seeing all the stuff that's going on. And reality, it can affect anybody. And I always talk to them, we can control. And we can't let our circumstances affect our attitude and our motivation. And really what we talk about, Cassie, as a team is finding ways to improve every single day, right? Because if not, we'll just go out there and go through the motions, and we won't like the results on Saturdays. So we just talk about personal improvement as a team. How can we get better? Each individual, right? Sometimes we talk to them about motivation. We have the pictures of families in the back of the lockers, and every game, Saturday pregame meal, I talk to them. I have one of the players stand up and talk about who's in the back of the locker and why do they have that person in the back of the locker, or those people, and what does that mean to them? What motivates them? Do you go out there and practice hard for the name on the front of your jersey and the name on the back of your jersey? And so plus we got to find ways to get at individuals to make sure they're motivated to go out there. It has been challenging. That's for sure. It's not as easy as just saying, okay, let's go roll the ball out there and go play ball. And then, I think you asked what individuals. I think you're just seeing it throughout different pockets. I think one of the guys that we've seen really grow during this time and been impressed with, obviously, has been Calvin Austin, not only his play on the field, but his leadership abilities. He's been able to step into a bigger role, and the team believes in him and trusts him. You see guys like Dylan Parham continue to step up. J.J. Russell's always been a quiet leader for us. Jacoby Francis, O'Brien Goodson. It's just been good to see a lot of those guys, that believe in the message we're trying to accomplish here. Preston Brady, and keep towing the line.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.